Hi everybody, my name is Francisco José Rengifo-Herrera. I am a professor at the School of Education at the University of Brasilia. Me and Gabriel Mieto are Infantia's lab head, a research group focused on child development and early childhood education. Today, I will present a specific analysis about the intentional strategies used by children during meal times and explain how these directed actions will be precursors of the emergence of canonical and symbolic uses. The data shows the relevance of planning settings that involve objects and their uses with autoregulation and development processes in 1 to 2 years old children here in Brazil. Uh, the theoretical approach for the study was the pragmatic of the objects, which reveals how the triad caregiver object children is a complex system. Caregivers in educational contexts show objects to the children and by doing so introduce historical, conventional, and semiotical aspects related to materiality and cultural intentions of the objects, promoting the learning about their social use and everyday life. Cultural and conventional knowledge allows the emergence of science to facilitate cognitive and emotional development pathways in early childhood. Uh, Observational analysis is our main methodological strategy to obtain specific data about actions, practices, and meanings in the triad. Uh, Today, our speech explains some data, description, and analysis related to the development of use of objects during meal times in day care centers in Brazil. Our target was identify educational practices and triadic interactions in classroom and refectories. For us, food not only nurtures children, but also facilitates the construction of cultural knowledge, practices, and meanings related to the group they belong to. Shared actions with caregivers are special settings for children to acquire knowledge. Caregivers in interactive contexts and with educational intentions co-promote the appropriate use of objects during mealtimes to share with children canonical and symbolic use of the objects in those cultural settings. Crockery, cutlery, and food are associated with meals and therefore involve the acquisition of cognitive strategies and motor skills, as well as autoregulation processes. This is some of our papers. First is public published paper with Rodriguez, and the other is in preparation with Ana Alencar. This seminar presents our first analysis related with meals and refectory practices during mealtimes. We want to show that meals and food go far beyond nutrition. The use of spoons, cups, plates, tables, or napkins are linked with children's development and with the use of the objects. Sorry. No, right. Our first data shows some results and analysis that suggest the teacher's role in the emergency of a specific use and autoregulated actions. In addition, the results point out that objects, engagement, and ways of educational interventions in the setting of triadic relationships they are related with exploration and conventional uses of the objects. In the same way, these educational settings for the appropriation and understanding of the objects, mealtime rituals, and cultural practices. Okay. Different difference between diverse kinds of teachers' interventions can guide or restrict the use of the objects through settings that afford children's use of the objects. In one hand, Professor A interventions, daycare center A, allow with the emergency of new actions and meanings. On the other hand, uh, this is the pink is the care day center A, the professor A, and purple is the daycare center B. On the other hand, Professor B, mediation restricted children's actions and auto-regulation. But imperative actions here, sorry, come on, and imperative actions, uh, imperative actions and giving instructions were specific practices linked with teachers. Sometimes uh, they try to introduce the objects and meanings during mealtime or lunch. Teacher A, for example, showed how these intentional goals related to less imperative actions were an important strategy to open exploratory activities with monitoring of the objects by the children. Let me show here. One, two, giving instruction, imperative actions, and like this, giving instructions and the relation with linking objects and actions, and imperative actions related with exploration activity with monitoring. Uh, Two examples of different kinds of intervention by the professors. Like this, our data shows how less imperative actions increased the exploration of the objects without monitoring by the children. However, we found in the daycare center B data that the professor intervention in this case revealed how their practices are become rigid and inflexible, reducing the children interaction with objects and food. More imperative actions become a drop in the exploration actions and monitoring. Zero frequency in the case of a teacher A, but a growth of the exploration without monitoring. The use and handling with spoons, plates, cups, and difference in both daycare centers is important. In the daycare center A, the exploration, handling, grasping, and use of the objects were recurrent, but these actions are less frequent in the B daycare center, like this in the graphic. Another data was associated with monitoring as an intentional strategy by the A teacher. She allows children to explore and handle the object or test food by themselves at the same time that they spoke about food tastes, about specific uses or characteristics of the objects involved in this moment. Spoons, cups, plates. Otherwise, teacher B restrict the possibilities to engagement with use of they do not talk about food's characteristic or the use of the objects during meal times. The evident difference between the professor A and B show the role of intentional actions in triadic settings. In the same way, highlight the educational slash intentional strategies are relevant to promote children's change and development in early childhood education contexts. Uh, Okay, this is the graphic and or explanation about this little that. Let me go on. And it is now recognized that the years in life are most important for emergence of science and appropriation of cultural practices. The triadic analysis of the teacher's actions explain the relevance of allowing children to handle, use, shake, grasp, taste the food, and create semiotics and meaningful settings to expand the possibilities of knowing and understanding cultural practices and the objects involved in the cultural settings. Canonical and symbolic uses emerge like educational possibilities that could be offered every day. Planning teacher-specific actions are the cornerstone to expand developmental pathways in children. Autoregulation contexts, planning in common, and simple situations allow new actions and developmental possibilities to the children. And this is the most general aspect of our analysis. Conclusions. Conclusions reveal important aspects related to use and meaning making during mealtime as semiotical precursors in early childhood education, showing how the triadic engagement allowed the emergence in canonical actions and the role of the caregiver's leadership, as well as the variegated semiotical dynamics into the triadic relations. Okay, and acknowledge and especially grateful to Ana Carolina Alencar and Rebecca Zambuja by the assisting and careful with our research work to promissory research for the future. Thank you very much.